Hey guys, I'm your host, Martin Perdomo, and this is your ultimate guide to understanding what it truly means to be wealthy AF. And today's guest, I'm joined by Rosalyn Ortega-Elie. And Rose is a friend, and this is her home. She's a founder of Urban Tech, an educational platform focused on real estate investing for newbies. Rose is a New York City native with a passion for self-education and community building, and she's a mom, wife, all while juggling a successful business. Rose, welcome back, my dear.
Hello. Thank you. Thank you. It's always fun to be here with
Yes,
you,
yes, 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 yes,
chatting it
thank
up.
you. And today we're going to be talking about a very interesting topic, and that is balancing family and business as a woman. There is a struggle. We talked about this last time you was here a little bit at the very end of our podcast with women not knowing how to turn on the boss life and the mom life. And I think you're doing that successfully. How do you navigate being in your feminine energy after being in your masculine energy all day long, running a business, calling the shots, and then coming home and having to be mom wife?
It's literally a switch. That's exactly what describes it. I just feel like I think that for us women, first you got to be honest with yourself and with the process, right? I think that's the missing link. I think a lot of us ambitious women that want to have our own and build our own often feel like you can only have one or the other, right? Or stick to kind of one lane of behavior. And then you quickly find out through the years that, it involves two different kind of mentalities when it comes to managing business, managing home life. So for me, it was more of just being honest with myself. I'm on my second marriage. So the first marriage was a hard lesson for me to take notes from and learn from. Um, while growing a career, that first marriage didn't work for different reasons, but it kind of made me realize that, if I wanted to do it again, I had to kind of change some things and just understand that, you have to be able to flip the switch, because home life is a totally different business in its own, in its own way.
100, 100%.
Yeah.
How do you do that, right? So how does a woman, let's give some women that are going through it right now. So I have a lot of female friends, and then we talked about this a little bit last time, where they just don't know how to turn it on and off, right? They
Okay.
just don't know. Um, I had a friend, and I've known her for 7 years, and I've seen her with three different partners. She'll call me, we every time she's got a new partner, we'll hang out, we'll go to dinner, and my wife and her partner, so we just kind of seen it, and I'm like, hey, dude, like, common denominator is you. And this person is a high powered executive. She's not a W-2. She's not an entrepreneur like us, but she's an executive. She's in an executive role in a well-known
Mhm.
company. And I'm like, dude, like, you're struggling with this thing. You don't know how to turn it off. Like, I think she's 200 people under her, and it's like, I see you.
Okay.
I know you're the boss at the job, but when you come home, you're not the boss.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're not the boss. How do you turn it off?
I've been in corporate America, so I know exactly what you mean. I had many female friends that were in the same position. I was in the same position at some point, where you work crazy hours and you are a leader, team leader, a manager, regional, whatever position you're in. So coming home or not having much of a life outside of work, it kind of makes it very difficult to enter the dating scene and to kind of be seen as just a woman, right? As a human, or a woman that's looking to be in a serious relationship. So I feel like, over the years, I learned that I had to become my own individual outside of my career, outside of my title, outside of my company, with kind of developing a life outside of work and having other things to talk about that were not just work, right? So I think that's one of the things that probably holds back a lot of females and probably males too, that, if you're so engulfed in your career and position and title, that's probably all you do, right? So that's probably the only thing you're talking about and the only thing that defines you. That can be really tricky when you start dating, because I feel like, it can be kind of like a turn off to some people, to some men, speaking as a woman, to just not realize the identity of that person sitting across from you, other than that person being a high powered professional. So for me, I had to find my way. Like, I had to find out who I was, what I like doing outside of work, outside of corporate, so that when I started dating, I had other things to talk about, to share, to plan, that were not so like rigid and in leadership mode. So I think that plays a big role, because I have friends too that are in the same position. They've been dating for years. They still can't really kind of find that one person that kind of, vibes with them. But at the same time, I'm noticing that, as women, we're very, when we take on a project or we take on a position, we want to excel and we put all of our energy into it. So disconnecting from that is hard to do. But I feel like if you are on a path of trying to build a relationship, trying to, get married one day, have children, you have to kind of learn how to navigate both spaces and turn one off when you're off the clock, and kind of be yourself when you're not on the clock.
Men struggle with this too, by the way.
Yeah.
Not just women.
Okay.
It's more common with us men, because as men, a lot of our identity is wrapped around what we do, because of our
Okay.
nature as providers and protector. For a lot of our identity is wrapped around what we do. It shouldn't be that way, right? You should have
Yeah.
depth to you. You should have different experiences, and you should be well versed in different things. It's just the way it is. Over the years, I've struggled with this myself as an individual, where I just go so heavy on work and business that I kind of neglect my relationship, my family, because I'm so heavy on trying to accomplish what I'm trying to accomplish. So I've been there. And some of the strategies I have learned through the years, I haven't really deployed it, but I have learned, hey, before you go in the house, take a few minutes in the garage to yourself, 5 minutes to just kind of breathe, decompress, meditate a little bit, and just kind of get in that, okay, I'm going into the house now, mother, father, husband mode, whatever. Whatever happened today at work is behind me. It's outside of the garage. This is different. Some of those strategies are some of the things I've heard, but is there anything that you do to help you, get off of boss mode when you're coming home?
Once I pick up the kids, that's it. Like, I'm switched off. So I have a routine where during the day I try to be highly productive. So every hour is segmented. Everything's on my calendar, my doctor appointments, even my lunch. Like, I try to keep it where I have heavy days of high productivity, so that I can have 1 or 2 days a week, midweek, of, not a lot going on. So because that time is what I use to plan our weekends, or to plan our vacations, or, text my husband, hey, what are we having for dinner? What do you feel like having for dinner? Just little things. Yeah. So once I get the kids, 5:30ish, after their after school activities, I'm in home life mode. Like, my phone can be ringing, people can text me. I'm not really, accessible like that. I think those that kind of deal with me on a regular basis, they know that after a certain time, I'm not always going to respond right away, right? Things can wait till the next day. That was one of the hardest things of being in corporate and like climbing up the ladder, because mentally you were told or expected to never disconnect. So thinking like back to when I was, in a position of leadership in a company, it was always like you were programmed to always respond, evenings, weekends, days off, sick days. Where now, as I'm working for myself, I'm like, okay, I have to kind of better manage the time and manage accessibility to me, pretty much, from the business world. But yeah, I pick up the kids, 5:30. I do the same. I either, take a stroll in Target, take a stroll to the supermarket, pick up things that I need. That kind of helps me decompress, disconnect from work. And now I'm in mommy mode. All right, what are we doing tonight? What are we eating? Who's got a project? Who's got dance practice? Who's got, And then every now and then, I do have evening webinars and I have sometimes an evening consultation every now and then. But I select like 2 nights out of the week where I will open my calendar up for that one conversation that needs to happen after work hours or, weekend mornings when everyone's still asleep. I jump on a Zoom real quick and do what I need to do. But for the most part, my days are very segmented. I try to stick to that.
Tell us a story about a time before you learned this and you was young and you was ambitious and you was going for it and you didn't understand this.
One thing I would do was always try to make it to events last minute. This was like 5-6 years ago, when I first started Urban Teach. And I would be like, hey, someone invited me to this networking event. So it's tonight. It's tonight at 7. Can you like order dinner for the girls? And I'll be back around 10. And the first time it was cool. Second time it was cool. Then it's like, wait a minute. Like, can we just like have a schedule here? Can we anticipate these events so that, maybe I can go with you, or maybe I can like find a babysitter so that I'm not, because, unfair. It's also unfair to the partner when you're just kind of going out on the fly and not having a set structure for still handling business. So those are some of the things that would happen, like very last minute events that I would get invited to, and me wanting to be
and the partner they can handle it that smoothly. Okay, wait, why don't you just see if we can plan this out a little better and you
no,
didn't
not
take
always.
me. I know he didn't. You could try to
No,
tell me that if you want to. I've been married too long. I know better. I know it
no,
wasn't
you would
that
be
way.
like, the first time it was okay. I'll let it go. I'll let it slide. But second time, third time, like, no.
Nah, dude,
This
what are you
doesn't work
doing
like
here?
this.
Yeah. How did you manage it? What was your defense mechanism? How did you overcome it and how did you break through it?
The same thing. I would push back and be like, I got invited. I need to be there. This is important to me. Like, you can't be selfish. I'm trying to do this for, my independence, da, da, da. All those lines. But then, time passes and then you learn better. You're like, okay, are we really going to have friction over this? Am I really going to have a unstable relationship at home and have the cloud hanging over me, when you walk in the house and it's like attitude and all of that? For me, wanting to be in a room of filled with strangers, like, is it really that serious?
You know what
So
that's called, my friend? It's called wisdom. What I call
yeah,
I call it
right.
wisdom. That's what it's called. It's called maturity, emotional maturity. It's called wisdom. With time, you can reflect on questions just like that. Is it really worth it? Stranger, don't know these
Right.
people, probably won't see them again.
Yeah.
Spouse, it's there for me. You know what I mean? It's just
Yeah. Yeah.
perspective and wisdom.
Totally. Yes. And then now, the other partner is upset and now it translates into the weekend. Normally not just a 1 day situation, right? Like carries over until it gets resolved. So, but yeah, wisdom is the right word. That's exactly what it is.
So, Rose, what advice are you giving to a young lady that's in that space that, you said something a moment ago, which is a trigger word for a lot of women. I know because I heard it with my women, right? 21 years, right? 27 years together. Trust me, I've heard it all, right? Like, you said a word that it's a trigger for women, and that's independence, right? Independence.
Yeah.
This is for my freedom and independence, blah, 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 blah. Okay. So when you say that, what do you mean when women say independence?
Yeah. So I think that in the word independence to us, generally, again, not everyone, but generally means you want to be able to come and go as you please, do what you want to do without asking for permission, right? Then independence kind of is the opposite of permission, right? You feel like if you have to get someone's approval, now you feel like, are you my man or are you my father? So there's a lot of other reasons why. And the word independence can be a trigger word as opposed to just saying, I'm working towards, this goal that I have. Like, I need the freedom to work on the things that I need to work on that are aligned with my goals. Freedom, but also, what do you call it? Cooperation is more like it, right? Because if you're in a relationship, it's not just about you and what you want. You have to kind of adjust how you approach things, conversations that you're going to have. You have to think twice before saying, I want to do what I want to do. Like, this is my life. Yeah, of course. We all know it's our life. Duh. But you're in a 50-50 partnership. So you don't have the final say all the time. You don't have the full control all the time. If that's what you want, then being in a partnership or relationship is not the thing for you, And I think that's kind of what gets lost in the mix is like, okay, I want this life. I don't want to have to cooperate with the other person or like run it by them because now it feels like permission. So we really kind of mess our
Isn't that a psyche though? Isn't that a limiting belief?
It is, yeah.
Isn't that a story that person is carrying from when they were 5 or 6 years old?
Yeah.
Of, my wife we laugh about it today because when we were younger in our early days, and I would say those exact same words that you just said. But my big thing was, you're not my mother. I do what I want. I'm a grown-ass man. I'm 19 years old. I'm a grown-ass man. I take care of this family. You're not my mother. You're not my mother. I would always repeat that to her. And when I think back to those words, was my childish ways, because my mom was so strict with me, and I was unconsciously equating the relationship and her trying to be in a partnership with me, and me pushing back saying, you're not my mother, I don't need a partnership. That was me and my immaturity, right? So when a woman says, I want to be independent and I don't want to ask for permission, and you use a very, very specific word, I don't want to be, or the other partner doesn't want to cooperate. When you went through that stage, when was your breakthrough?
Well, again, like I said, it's my second marriage. So the first marriage, I already learned those lessons, right? Just trying to be independent, not ask for permission, coming home at whatever time I wanted to, running out the door as needed, and again, yeah, you're right, because it does come from childhood, especially coming from a Latina, Spanish household, how mothers are with their girls, the daughters, versus their sons most of the time. So with daughters is, you in the fathers too, you do what I say, you come and go when I say, this is the time you need to be home. So I was always pushing back on that. So getting into that first marriage was more like, wait a minute, I'm free. It's like, I'm a woman, I'm independent. I don't need to tell you when I'm coming home. I'm just going to come home, right? So, going through that failure and kind of learning over the years and seeing other people fail too, by the way. Most of my friends, long-term relationships gone down the toilet and divorces and breakups. You eventually catch on and you're like, wait a minute, who's doing it right? Who should I be paying attention to those couples that are successful 10, 15, 20 years in? What are they doing right? And listening to what they have to say versus me trying to do my own thing. So I've been really lucky. I have, 2 or 3 couples around me as well that have been married 20 plus years. And, it's never easy, but at least you get a general sense of what that partnership should be like, when both people are trying to just do their own thing, but still live within, 50-50 partnership pretty much.
When you were younger, you get a call, I'm out, I got to go do this thing. Wow, you don't tell me what to do, blah, 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 blah. I know, I've heard those things from my wife too. You don't tell me what to do. I just, what's interesting is though, here's what's interesting, Kat, right? That as I'm older now, like I can look at these things, because sometimes it comes out a little bit, we're not perfect. But I can look at these things and reflect, and I can almost see it from afar, and I can just take it with a chill. You understand what I'm saying? Like I can almost just take it with a chill, and I can see this movie. I've seen this movie before. I know what's gonna happen next year. I just gotta chill out and let this thing just simmer down, right? And then I'll come back around to it later. I'll share this with you. When I was a younger man, and I wanted to get intimate with my wife, right? And I wasn't doing things right. You women are very Everything's got to be perfect. You got to, if you screamed at the dog or you screamed at the kids, you're turned off, you're done. Don't touch
Yeah.
that, right?
I'm mad at you.
I'm at you, right? This is over, right? So in my younger days, it was, um, I got a headache. I learned that. I picked up on that shit real quick. Like, it's like, you always got a headache. Like, you know what I mean? Men, you know what I'm talking about, right? Headache, right? And now with time, right? With age and time is like, okay, you got a headache, you don't feel good, no worries. I live to see another day. Tomorrow's another day. Not going anywhere. Tomorrow, like tomorrow's another day. So,
Yeah.
but as a young man, I used to throw these fits and you don't love me, da 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 da. Me voy para la sala, and I would go sleep in the living room, the sofa, and it was a big thing for 2 days. And now it's like, it's just different because with time and maturity,
Yeah.
it's like, okay, tomorrow's another day. Can I get you anything? Can I help you with? Can I serve you with anything? You want some water? Can I get you something?
Right.
You know what I mean? It's just different with time. What strategies are you deploying today? How do you get those things that you want? Because you're still running a business and there's still times that you got to take those calls. There's still times that you got to do certain things. How do you communicate to your spouse today when you are not asking for permission, but for collaboration with your spouse? Like, hey, I'm going to this event. How does that communication happen? How do you plan it? What does that look like?
I mean, I'm very selective too about what even conversation to have when it comes to business. So like if there's something that I'm not sure about whether I'm going or not, it's not even a conversation worth having, because with us, we still have a little one who's 7. We have 2 teenagers in the house, my daughter and his daughter that lives with us. So it's a little more complicated, right? So there's certain things that if they pop up last minute, I decide first if I really want to be there. If I do, then yeah, we'll sit down. Hey, by the way, it's Friday night, this is happening. I want to go. I think it's an opportunity for me to XYZ. Can you back me up on this one? Like I need you to, pitch in.
Whatever,
Yeah. And if he's like, you know what, you've been for the last 3 Fridays, you've been out and we really haven't had, like we both know when it's time for us to have us time versus business or kid time, right? So we kind of stop each other. Just yesterday, he was like, listen, these last 3 weeks have looked like the same for us. The weekends we're just home, chores, laundry, this and that. We need a night out. Like, what's up? Let's go, So now we're like, all right, next weekend we're going to a comedy club. We're going to a bar. Like, we're going to go eat. So I think we both catch each other, which is a good balance. So we know when, I know when not to even bring certain situations up that will require his time when I'm not around. I only really do that when it's important enough for me to do it. You know what I mean? So I've been very selective lately, like with my time, where I want to be, who I want to be with outside of my regular schedule is what I should say.
Awesome.
I think that's helped a lot too.
That's great. What I'm hearing by what you're saying, Rose, is I'm hearing emotional maturity. I'm hearing understanding, respect. I'm hearing just it being in tune in your relationship, both of you. That's awesome. It's been that way for my wife. We've been in that for a while, my wife and I. We usually go out every weekend. We're doing something, like I take my wife out on a date almost every weekend, but from like Thanksgiving is February now. To now we haven't. And it's because we got a lot of things going on. We got a big move and we got a lot of things going on. So we literally just had that conversation. Like, hey, babe, when we get to our destination, we got to, we just got a lot of stuff going on. We got to just go away. We're planning just a vacation, just her and I, like just
Good.
out.
Good.
But I call that emotional maturity, what you guys are doing. If there's a young lady listening to us right now and is saying, man, you know what? The dating scene is hard. The men out here are this. Men don't communicate like that. What are you telling this?
I'm going to tell that young lady to stop listening to these relationship podcasts of people who are not married.
That's a good advice.
And these TikTok pages of people saying, men this, women that. It's like, how many times have you been married? Like, you have children? How long?
Running one of those businesses.
That's number one. Number two, who are you hanging out with? Because your definition of what men should be doing or not doing sometimes is a reflection of what your other girlfriends are saying and talking about. You might not even have a clear picture of what it is that what you're looking for, what's important to you, right? So be careful what you listen to, who you listen to, who's saying it, and just kind of define your own I don't want to say list, but your own requirements for a relationship. Like, what does that look like to you? Who is that person that, what qualities does that person need to have for you to be interested in? And where are you trying to meet these people, right? This guy. Like, are you trying to meet them at a bar when it's loud? Or are you trying to meet them, you trying to go in different circles of others potentially single men that might be, what you're looking for, educated or not, in business or not, what age range, right? Where you, and then also what position are you in? Are you a single mom? Are you just a single young lady? Like, there's different, I think that you got to be realistic with your situation, your availability, what you're looking for, your EQ, right? Your emotional intelligence, what you can deal with, not deal with. Like, there's a lot of things people need to be clear on before even heading out into the dating scene. I mean, I was one of them. I was dating in my 20s and I really didn't know what I was doing. I was just like, top 3 things. Do you have a car? Are you handsome? Can you pay for our dinner? Like, that was it, right? I'm just saying, like, being realistic, I never really developed like a sense of what were the important things that I needed to look for.
Let's dig in. Let's dig in on that. I want us to dig in on that. Hold that thought, because I want you to dig in on that. She's like, yeah, that's me. Car, dinner, handsome, cool. That's me. What else? Because you're young and you're dumb, and that's just what it is. For us men, it was just, for us at that age, it's just, you got to look good. We don't care about nothing else. You just got to look good.
Nothing else, yeah.
Now she's listening to you. This version of you is listening to this podcast, and you're saying, wait a minute, kid. That was not so smart. What are you telling her to look for in that dating scene now, knowing what you know now, having gone through what you've gone through already in life, here at this stage in your life?
I mean, the only real way you can avoid the drama in the dating scene is to look for that character that you envision, the traits of a man that you envision needing for that person to be what you need, right? So, like, if you want someone who's respectful, right, who's not gonna ghost you, who's gonna answer back when you call them, or who's gonna respond back and not disappear on you.
I hear that's a common thing these days in the dating world.
That's what I hear too. Yeah, this is why I said the word ghosting, because apparently, it's a thing now. There's gonna be signs from the beginning, is what I tell every woman. You're gonna see this in the beginning. I feel like we all get blinded with all the other things, right? Oh, he makes money, or he's cute, or he has his own place, or he drives a nice car. And then that kind of negates all the other things that you're seeing, that you would see.
Like what?
Like, he said, I'll see you Friday, but then it's Wednesday and you haven't heard from the guy. There's no factual plan. There's no like time and date in place, right? And then he shows up again Monday and say, oh, I forgot I said Friday. Like, is this someone who's keeping their word?
Integrity.
Just very basic stuff. Are they keeping their word? Are they making plans to see you? Are they taking the time to talk to you? Very basic, 101, right? And those right away can tell you if this person is even interested in really dating you, or if their intention is completely different than the intention that you have. So it's just a matter of like kind of understanding, filtering through the drama, filtering through the
Let me ask you this question. Does a woman become the woman that attracts? Because what I'm hearing is that you should be looking for a set of values in a man.
Yes.
Right? One of your values is integrity. This is what you're telling your younger self. Because I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, an important thing for women is safety and security. But a woman cannot feel safe and secure if the man doesn't keep their word.
Correct.
So that's the first red flag for you. But how does a woman become the type of woman that attracts that man? Because there's something there too, okay?
Yeah.
something there too, because I'm gonna tell you, I know men that are like that. I like to believe I'm that. I'm very high on integrity and my word, and I spend time with men that are like that. All of us are married with children in our families. However, I will tell you, the younger version of you listening to us
Mhm.
right now, that those type of men like us are not interested in taking a woman serious that's showing her ass on Instagram.
Yeah, I
Not
know.
interested.
Totally.
We will not that we are not interested in that woman. We want a woman that looks. I speak for myself here, but that's classy,
Mhm.
sexy, and classy. And to be
Mhm.
sexy and classy, you don't have to show your ass off on Instagram and social media. You could be
Right.
sexy and classy, and you could be covered up and look beautiful and still look freaking amazing.
Yeah,
Like,
totally.
you can still do that, ladies. Just know that. I just want young ladies. I just want you to know
Yeah,
you
yeah,
can
they
still
need
do
to hear it. They
that.
need to hear it.
Hearing it from a man, you could still do that. But how does a young woman in this day and age, where everything is easy for them and it's attention, and for the young women, for women, it's easy to get attention. Women, you guys got it real easy
Yeah.
for attention online. Just put on a little shirt, skirt, or just, I'm at the beach with my friend, and all of a
Yeah,
sudden
yeah,
you're in
yeah.
a bikini, and they get, yeah, right, you're doing it for attention. How do you what's the type of woman you have to become to attract that type of man?
I mean, you have to be the type of woman you would want your son to marry, right?
Ooh, repeat that again, please. Repeat
I
that
mean,
again.
if you had a son, who would you want your son to marry, right? Someone that's, sure of herself, that again respects herself, right? Respects her body, understands that, it's not just the visual, there's got to be substance. So there's got to be substance behind who you are. Like, who are you? What do you represent? Who do you represent? What do you represent? What are you trying to accomplish? And of course, it's very different by age range. So I wouldn't expect an 18-year-old or a 19-year-old to get it this early on. It's something you have to kind of learn through the years. But the earlier you learn it, the better. Because again, you don't want to have to go through 3 mistakes, right? 3 long-term relationships or 3 marriages to finally be like, I got it now. I figured it out. So the sooner you can learn the lesson, the better. But for me, it's always been about, character on both sides, what you put out, what you say, what you do, how you behave yourself. That's all going to be a part of it. It's going to be very rare that you're out there being you and being independent. And again, might get some flack for this because, people are like, I want to just show my skin and do what I want to do. Yeah, you can do what
That's
you want to
fine.
do. That's fine.
Just understand that you can do that. Like, it's not that, for me, it's not that I'm against that. It's like, just understand that you can do that. But at the same time, you're going to attract a certain type of man.
That's right.
Every action has a reaction.
Correct.
And every
Yep.
action has a consequence. So when you do what you just said and you want to be independent and show skin, cool, power to you.
Yeah,
Give up.
you do
Give
that.
up.
Have fun. Yeah.
Do it up. Been there, done that, right? But when you understand that, you cannot be that and expect to find a man that's going to have all of these check marks that you are looking for.
Right.
Like a man that's going to provide safety, security, that's going to be integritous, that's going to be honorable, that you feel like your kids can feel safe with them if you have children with them, and it's going to honor you, it's going to respect you, it's going to take care of you, it's going to honor your parents. All of these characteristics that you would want in a man, you're not going to attract that type of understand. I'm telling you, as a man, how we think,
Yeah.
and what we see is, when we see that, we see a good time, and that's it, ladies. I'm
Right.
telling you,
A good time and with an expiration date too.
yeah, that's what we see. And ladies, I want you to know this. Like, that's really what we see.
Right. And I feel like men should also speak more on that, because again, you have this whole generation of, the plastic surgeries, the BBLs and the exaggerated body parts, that are in your mind are equal marriage or equal a husband or finding a husband, right? But in the man's mentality, you're not equaling a wife with exaggerated body parts, right? You're just equaling something else when you see it. So I feel like more men have to actually be honest and just share that. Like, hey, if I see you and you look like this is really what I want. This is what I'm looking for from you. Not necessarily used to
I'm
bear
gonna
my
tell you what we think when we see that. I'm gonna tell you right now what we think when we see that. I'm gonna be as respectful as I possibly can. 'Cause I know there's a lot of people I know and family members. We actually look at that and we laugh and we think how misproportioned you are and how fake it looks. That's the first thing. And then the next thing is we actually prefer a natural woman. Believe it or not, ladies. Ladies, believe it or not, I know you're doing all these things for us. We actually prefer a woman that's natural. We actually prefer a woman that doesn't have all of that stuff, that everything she has is what God gave her. We actually, well, not all of us, but most of us, I'm going to speak, not all of us. Most of us actually prefer a natural woman.
Yeah, I feel like that's part of it. More men have to say it because there's a lot of the. I grew up in the '90s, right? So I was in the club scene, '96 to like 2005, and just thinking back, and I was telling a friend of mine this the other day. I was like, you remember when we used to go to the clubs and like everyone wore their natural hair, no matter who you were. If you were Black, Spanish, Jamaican, whatever. We all like were prideful about our curly, wavy, crazy hair, spray. We all went with our natural eyes, no act crazy lashes. We didn't spend a lot of time trying to just become someone else when we were out of the house. But I feel like, now it's just very different. And I really want to tell young women, like, listen, it doesn't have to be this complicated. Like, you can still be beautiful and find a man that respects you, that loves you, that wants to, be with you without doing all that extra work, external extra work. So all that time invested doing the internal work. The internal work is more important than what you actually show on the outside. And just comparing those two time periods, like late 90s, early 2000s, how it was out here, in what women were wearing, showing, being, it's very different than what it is now. Because now it's like everything is so exaggerated and everything is, you got to add so much more to how you look to try and get that outcome. So it's very, very, I don't know if it's a society thing that's just kind of making its wave and distorting how us women see ourselves. But, I just wanted to put that out there.
How are you teaching your girls to be independent and yet be feminine at the same time?
That's a very important one. So I keep that in mind every single day when I interact with them. One, always going back to making sure they understand that they're beautiful how they are, just to piggyback off of what I just said. We talk about wearing your hair naturally. We talk about not obsessing about these long, crazy nails, right? We talk about not having to do all these piercings on your face or like distorting your beauty to fit into what society wants you to be. That's one, because I feel like self-confidence lacks in a lot of us. And that is kind of what puts you in a path of not trying to, in a path where you're not going to be getting what you want out of life sometimes, not all the time. But I teach them to be, happy with themselves, with how they are, how they speak, how they look. Secondly, I make it a point to cook dinner at least 3 times a week, and I incorporate that with them. So I get them to help me with the cooking. They help out with the cleaning. I don't have teenagers that are sitting on the couch just looking cute and expecting me to serve them. I want them to be part of the process. Like, we're all working together so that we can all have a homemade meal, at the table. And then I teach them, like, it's okay to serve a man, right? Dad is home. He's been working 10 hours at the hotel. He comes home stressed out and busy and tired. So, let's bring him a glass of wine. Let's bring him to dinner. It's 4 women in the house and 1 guy, Awesome. So I always try to put that in them. Like, okay, yes, a lot of us, what do they call them? The feminist movement is don't serve your man and let them make their own sandwich and all this crap. And I'm like,
it's a partnership. They won't be married. Those ladies aren't married for long.
Yeah. And the thing is that we're nurturers by nature. So it's like, I want them to keep that nurturing sense. And I think that's one of the ways that I kind of push that for them. And of course, the independence with the whole do good in school. Let's talk about how do you want to live when you grow up, right? What kind of career do you want to have? Like, I always instill that in them. You should have your own money. You should have your own skills. You should grow your skills. You can do both. It's going to be a little harder because it really is. But, I try to tell them that. I don't ever preach, let a man take care of you. I never, ever, those words have never come out of my mouth. It's nice when they do, but in the event that they don't, you still got to take care of yourself. So those are kind of some of the things I try to teach them.
What is your perspective on stay-at-home mom?
I commend them. It's a work in itself. It really is. I mean, being home, when I had both of my girls and I had to be home for 3-4 months on maternity, because I didn't make the click yet, I was ready to go back to the office. I was like, this is not it. Like, I cannot be home 24 hours changing diapers and cleaning bottles. Like, this is not what I want to do. My work is waiting. I got to get this new meeting in place. I need to travel for this training because I didn't make that switch yet. So I know that it's hard to be.
What switch? Tell me what switch?
The switch of having both, having that career during the day and being a mom as well at the same time.
You hadn't figured that piece of the puzzle out yet.
Nope. I was still I got to climb up that ladder. I'm going to drop off my kid at daycare for 12 hours and do what I got to do. So I was there. Listen, being at home full time is no joke. It's a lot of work. I commend women that do it. I say do it for as long as it makes sense because the kids do need moms. A kid that's nurtured at home with their mom from the very beginning is a blessing. Like, kids need that, right? That connection, the bonding time, it's needed. It's necessary. A lot of moms can't do it because they got to get back to work. But if you can do it, if you can afford to, do it as long as you can. But at some point, you have to disconnect, right? Your kid has to go to preschool. And then at that point, what are you going to do with your time? So I always say it shouldn't be a permanent situation because I want every woman to still feel like they have their own thing. I talk to a lot of mothers that have devoted their whole life to just raising kids and never worked a day in their lives or never had a passion for anything else. And then now the kids are grown and they're in college and they left the house and they're going bananas because they don't know what to do with their time, right? They haven't developed a sense for being their own person. So it's tough. It really is. I just feel like you can do both. It just takes a little bit of planning.
I'll share this quick story with my wife and I. Early on, decided that she was going to stay home. We have 4 kids, as you know. And the reason I asked you that question is because as a woman, she has shared with me that her experience has been, and I don't want to misinterpret her experience, so just I'm gonna interpret it in the best way that I possibly can as I received it. Okay. And she said to me that for her it was challenging because we live in a society where career women in the feminist movement would kind of shame women like her, right? So, and I struggled with this. We struggled with this for years in our marriage, where we know this is the right thing to do, babe. We made a decision. You're going to stay home. You're going to raise the kids because we know it's what we want and we think is best for our family. It was a family decision. And I sacrificed and I worked hard and it was hard. As a man, it was hard having to provide for 6 people on a sales job. I freaking had to get good. And we struggled. There were years that we struggled. And she would tell me how it was difficult because she would feel shamed by women that had their careers and that were doing things because she was home. But yet she hung in there. And for many years, she would on and off. It was like, I'm going to go get a job. And she would go get work for 3 months. And then this is what would happen. She would go work for 3 months, but she had already experienced what it was like to be there for the kids when they get off the bus, feeding them, having their dinner, being there, listening to all the stories when they first come in, helping them with their homework. And then she would go and get a job. And 3 months later, she sees the kids slipping. And she's like, this is not worth it. I'm quitting. Right? We went through that iteration a few times in our 21 years of marriage. Right? We went through that multiple times because she would get this urge because there's so much societal pressure for a woman to go and be independent and get your own money and do. And I have partly to blame, Rose, because I was also immature and I wasn't providing the safe space for her. And if I had been providing the safe space for her, that would have never crept up for her. So I
Okay.
own a lot of that myself. Fast forward, my oldest is 27. We're going to dinner tonight. We're going to
Oh,
he just turned 27. We're going to have dinner as a family tonight. Matter of fact, as I record this, they're all 27, 25, 23, and 21. And
a blessing.
yeah, blessing. Thank God for that. Yes, ma'am. And today the kids on their own, they all reflect and they all tell us, all of them, how lucky they feel that they were, that their mother was home when they got off of that bus. And
That's
what a
right.
great experience that was for them to know that mom was there with their little nuggets, whatever memories they have,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
mom would help them with their homework, and mom was there for them. You know, I would have these conversations as a young man with my wife, like, hey, the kids are going to be grateful one day. Trust me, we're making an investment now for the future. And now we're seeing the fruits of that, not by us, but by them. They're telling her how grateful, how lucky they were, and how awesome life was for them because mom was there.
Yeah. And it is. It is a blessing because these kids see their friends that had spent no time with their parents, right? That's what pushed me to leave corporate America 4 or 5 years ago. I was like, I'm out. I can't go back. This is why I've been investing all these years and getting my money right, because I missed the whole window. Like, my firstborn went into a babysitter in the Heights at
Mhm.
3 months old, right? Because I had to open a new hotel in Times Square. So she was in with a babysitter from 3 months old, kindergarten through 6th grade. She was in school for 12-hour days, 7:30 in the morning drop off till 6:30 p.m. after school. That was 11 hours of her. And every summer in summer camp, because I had to be at work all year long.
Hard.
Right?
That's just think about that.
Very
Just
hard.
think about you saying it, and just think about what you're just saying.
Yes. And then she told me when she got out of 6th grade, Mom, I don't want to go to summer camp again. I need a summer off, please. And then it really shocked me. I was like, oh my God, I never even thought about it, because I was in such corporate mode and getting up the ladder mode and making the money mode, that I was like, I didn't even hit me that she was spending all this time, around her teachers and her friends and not with mom, right? Now that changed my view on things. This is when I really started getting it into overdrive about getting my own business, investing my money, getting my finances in order. Because, that was what? She's in 11th grade now, going to. So that was 5, 6 years ago. I was like, all right, that's it. I got to be available to them. But I was only able to do that because, I was able to put myself in a certain financial position. But the sooner someone can realize that the kids do need your time and your attention, the better, especially for mothers. It's a must, especially nowadays with all this influence that's going around. So it's a good story. I'm glad you're sharing that.
Yeah, that I where I was going with it, Rose, is that you mentioned that you know some women that dedicated their whole lives to their family, and now they're older and they don't know what to do with the kids are gone. And I got to tell you, I was watching out for that for years. I was like anticipating that, right?
Okay.
I was anticipating that. I was looking into the future and saying, okay, when the kids grow and go, I'm just a visionary, right? So I kept talking to my wife, and now we're in another stage in our life where the kids are growing and going, and it's like, okay, what's next? But I had the what's next 10 years ago, right?
Good.
I had this vision 10 years ago. I was like, kids, this, grow, go, travel, grandkids,
Good.
find, money, right? We're going to have money where we can now spoil grandkids. Bring the grandkids over to our house for the summer. We take the grandkids on vacation on our dime. Just go, you guys, bye-bye. Just leave the kids with us.
Yeah.
We'll take them. So I kind of had that vision. I was always casting that vision for her. Like, hey, babe, when this happens, now I want you to, as you know, my wife is in real estate. I got her license. I was like, hey, I want you to start getting involved in the business and kind of transitioning all of that so she could be run the department of the real estate, selling of our assets, disposition of our assets. So I think when I think about what you said with those ladies, I think they were just living without
Yeah.
looking into the future and planning out into the future.
Right.
And I tell you, man, my wife still struggles with this, Rose. Like, she still struggles with this because she's, like you said, she's a nurturer. And she's seeing, hey, the kids are getting older and they're leaving. And sometimes she gets all sad about it. I'm like, babe, she's like, you just don't care. And I'm like, no, babe, it's just, this is what happens. This is where we are in
Yeah.
life. Like, accept it, embrace it. Like, this is it. This is where we are. Like, we are here.
It's like next chapter, next phase.
Like we're here. No,
Yeah.
like we moved and we did, and here we are. How much influence does our parents have on where we are going and what we're doing? None, very little. You know what I mean? Like,
exactly.
Like we're living our life, and this is it. Like, this is where they are. Like,
Right.
you just gotta accept it and you gotta embrace it. And I think it's a little different for women because, again,
It is, yeah. And luckily you have that, you saw that years ago and you're able to help her through the process, but that's not always the case, you know? So I know women that their children they're in college or they're moved out and they don't have a husband that's thinking ahead, right? The husband's just like, oh, well, just keep cooking and cleaning, keep doing laundry. And then they're feeling like, is this all I ever did was just cook and clean, you know? And then it starts affecting you because, again, if you go through all of your life maybe having a passion for something and never did it because you had the kids.
Yeah.
That's a very realistic thing. And it's just that a lot of women don't share it because they feel like they're going to get shamed for it. There's women that wanted to do something in arts maybe, or, you know, open up a business or get into film editing or go to acting school or be a dance, and they gave it up because they wanted to be there for the family. Now the family's gone and the husband's watching football 12 hours a day and they're sitting in the kitchen like, what am I going to do with my time? You know? So it's a very realistic thing. It's hard to really predict all of it, but I always say just, you got to, like, you think 5-10 years ahead. You know, Ben and I are already like, when the two big ones go to college, when we have the little one,
you have your vision.
We're homeschooling her and we're moving out of the state and we're probably going to move to the Caribbean for 2 years. Like, we're already thinking what's happening 5-10 years from now.
Remember what the great book says. The great book says, without vision, the people perish, right? And you guys are casting a vision for your future, right? And the likelihood of it happening increases dramatically when you start to speak it and you start to think it and you start to project out and you start taking actions today that will implement that. And I think for women, if that's you and you're that woman that Rose just mentioned, I think a good idea would be, if your kids are getting older, is maybe start taking up some photography classes. Maybe start doing some of those things. I started encouraging my wife to do that when the kids were in high school. I was like, okay, babe, why don't you go to, you know, pottery? She likes pottery. She's doing pottery. Now in our new house, she's going to build a little pottery thing and she's going to have her own little, I'm like, let go. Like, I want to support you. I want to encourage you. Like, I'm here to support you in whatever things you want to do. Right? Like, this what you want to do? Let me support you. It's that pottery. Let's get you the thing. Let's get you what you want.
All the colors.
Yeah. Go for it, right? If that's what it is. She told me now she wants to do, I don't know, yoga stretching type of thingy. I was like, go.
Just say yes. Okay, say yes. Here's the check. Put it on the account.
That's the thing. I'm not like, so you know, a relationship is about making each other better. As an older man, you know, as a younger man, it's about competition when you're young and immature. Compete. No, you can't do that. And control. Compete and control. Yeah. Dude, I am not trying to control anybody.
Yeah. That's right.
The only person I'm controlling is moi, right here.
Yeah.
And it's my disciplines. I'm controlling what I do, what I eat, how I behave, my integrity, how I manage my work. And my wife will respond to my disciplines and behavior.
Correct. That's exactly it.
She will respond to my disciplines and behavior. Baby, she's like, I wanted to. It's nothing that violates my values, nothing that violates the family's value. Go, baby. How can I support you?
Yeah.
Is it going to make us broke? Is it going to? No, go. I can support you.
That's that emotional intelligence that you both have. You know, a lot of other folks might not have that. So it still becomes a control thing. It still becomes, I'm the leader. I decide if you go do pottery or not. You know?
It used to be me, though, Rose. That used to be me. My sister, that used to be me. I decided the money. I'm the what? That's foolish, man. It's What? Who am I? Like, who am I to decide what you like or don't like? And who are
Right.
you to decide what I like or don't like, right? Like, we're here to support each other. Like, hey, I don't eat.
Right.
She doesn't eat meat, so she doesn't eat red meat. So there's times that I want to go eat a steak, and I'm like, babe, we're going to a steakhouse. She's like, I don't eat.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, I know, babe, you don't eat meat, but they steakhouses have, fish, and they have chicken,
Yeah.
they have shrimp. You could just join me, and you could have your chicken and shrimp, and I'll eat my steak. And she's good with it. All right.
Yeah. I mean, it's really that simple. Like, that, sometimes we overcomplicate it for no reason.
And
For
then
absolutely
tomorrow,
no.
you want to go eat? Okay, we're gonna go eat to your place. Cool.
Yeah.
You know,
That's
right?
it.
It's not that serious, and it's just like sometimes when you're young and you're immature, you want everything is a big fight, everything's a big blow up, everything is a big thing, and it doesn't have to be. It's about give and take and that dance and supporting each other and making each other better. It's not that I rule over you, you rule over me. It's not that you're not my mom. That used to be my thing. You're not my mom. Now she tells me. Now I actually, what's interesting, Rose, that when my wife calls me on my bullshit, I actually encourage it. I actually like it.
That's what Ben is telling me too. He's like, call me out. Just tell me when I do it.
Because you know
I'm like,
what?
okay, fine.
You know what?
I
You know what? Because I had a therapist, right? I went to marriage counsel years ago, and she said to me, when you create a safe enough space for your wife to call you and she feels safe to tell you and you're not going to attack her and this and that,
yeah.
that's when you're going to have your biggest growth and your biggest, because who knows you more? And I was like, you know what? This is true. So now when she calls me on my shit, I actually, even though it hurts, because I'm not thinking,
Yeah,
be like,
of
I'd be
course.
like,
Yeah,
oh
yeah.
no, it's great that no, that's a lie, right?
Mm,
But I sit there and I wonder and I say, you know what, babe, thank you. And I'm like, you know what? Thank you for letting me know that I'm doing that and I might not be seeing it. And let me give you some context, because maybe the way you're seeing it is not the way I'm meaning it. So let's
right.
create some
Delivery.
clarity. Yeah, let's create some clarity around that so you can see and we can unpack what meaning we're both giving to this particular behavior. And
Growth.
but more times than none, she's right.
Yeah.
More times than none, she's right. And I have a shift, and it's like, I didn't see that, and I missed that, and I appreciate that, because sometimes I'm just such an achiever, and I'm
Gotta bring you back.
going, and I just, when you walk into,
See.
you know what I mean? I'm just going, and she's like, yo, should come back, come
Yeah.
back.
Yeah. You went far ends.
Yeah. So last question, because we went way over time. I always enjoy having conversations with you, Rose.
Okay.
Last question. Is there something you didn't share with the audience that you should have shared that will bring massive amount of value to them and to me?
I would just say you need to be sure of yourself. Self-assurance, right? Self-awareness is big for me. Like, that's my favorite word lately. Because if you're not self-aware, then you're just going to follow what everyone else is doing. You're going to follow someone else's opinion, someone else tells you to do. But if you are self-aware, then you know what kind of sits with your soul. You know what makes you feel good. You know what you can accept, where your decisions need to be. And when you don't operate from a place of self-awareness, that's when you end up putting yourself in situations and relationships that make you unhappy, right? So self-awareness is huge. And also time, like, you have to put a value on your time. I just spoke to someone yesterday. Really, really just troubled me a little bit, because she was talking about her partner. When she introduced the partner to me, we're talking about a deal. She said, oh, I want to introduce you to my partner. I mean, boyfriend. I mean, father of my 3 children. Like, she didn't even know how to address their relationship. They're 3 children, 3 kids in a decade of being together. And it was almost like, she's trying to bring him into this deal. He really doesn't want to be in it. It's more of her thing. But I could tell right away that she's just not even sure about what this relationship is. Having 3 children and having a decade put in. And I'm like, if you're not even sure about the person that you're sleeping with next to you for the last decade, and you've had 3 kids, then you're not sure about anything in life. Like, let's stop right here. We shouldn't even be talking real estate deals, right? So that really just set this bulb in my head. I came home and I told Ben, I was like, can you believe this? She was having trouble explaining her relationship with her partner.
Just introducing him. Wow.
Just introducing the person. And again, I don't know their dynamic and I don't care to know what their relationship is, but clearly there's something missing there where you let time pass and you don't have a true definition of who this person is in your life, right? So just don't waste the time. Don't waste the time. Be assertive, have some self-awareness, and really just kind of define what it is you need for your life. If you want to be single forever, that's cool too. I'm not promoting that everybody needs to be a husband or a wife. Some people really don't want to be, and that's fine, right?
They shouldn't.
But right, they shouldn't be. And if you don't want to be a parent, then don't be a parent. Don't follow what everybody else is telling you to do. So self-awareness, don't waste time. That's it.
Thank you so much. Those were really, really good words of wisdom. I'm just curious, what would you, if you had an opportunity to talk to that lady, what would you tell her? What about that topic? What message did that send to you as a woman? Like, how did that make you feel as a woman, seeing another woman struggle in that introduction of her spouse?
It made me sad. Like it just made me feel like she did not know her worth, pretty much. And again, I don't know the situation. I don't know all the points. But, being a mom of 2, being married twice, having friends that have kids, maybe married or not married, doesn't matter. But listening to her, it kind of broke my heart because I know she's really trying to do better. She's trying to move into a different space and invest her money and do things to put the family in a better financial place. But just listening to the uncertainty of the commitments, it made me sad. I was like, oh my goodness, now I don't even think she should get involved in real estate because what if he leaves and now she's stuck with this property and her 3 kids, So as a woman, it didn't make me feel good. I don't know that I would. Maybe I'll have that conversation with her. Maybe not. I'm not sure yet, but it really sucks.
Maybe she'll listen to this podcast and she'll have gotten some value. And, a lot of times, and I know I said we're going to wrap this up, but a lot of times a lot of women don't have the proper male, masculine model in their life to set a gauge for what they want as a spouse in their life. You said something really powerful earlier. You said, look, be the woman you want your son to marry. Yeah. Right? Be the woman you want your son to marry. I remember being very conscious of how I treated my wife to have a daughter. I was very fortunate as a young man because we spent a lot of time in church. We took our kids to church every Sunday. We spent a lot of time in church. So I had a lot of Christian influence in my marriage, in my life, as my wife and I were in our struggles. And I give all the glory to God because it was God that kept us together through all of those immaturities and a lot of people praying for us. And, it was being in church and having God-fearing people in our life that, and all the prayers that has kept us together all these years. And I was always very conscious how I treated my wife because I knew that I was the standard my daughter was going to have.
Totally.
I knew that I was the standard. I just knew. And when my wife many times, a handful of times, my wife kicked me out of the house, right? I had to leave the house. And not a single time did while we were going through those phases, Did I ever stop taking care of my wife? Did I ever stop paying the bills in the house? Did I ever stop coming to see the kids? Not a single, as flawed and as screwed up as I may have been, I always
Hmm.
knew that I was going to take care of them and her, regardless of how mad she was at me. I wasn't going to pull
Okay.
the, I'm not going to pay the bills and da 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 da. I wasn't doing that. It's her,
Right.
it's her home as much as it's mine, and it's those kids, our kids' home, and it's my responsibility to continue to provide whether I'm there or not. And I was very, very intentional with that because I knew
Yeah.
my daughter was watching.
Yeah. And they do.
I knew she
And they
was
do.
watching, and I was the standard. And I wanted her
Yeah.
to know, like, hey, dude, no matter what, whatever man you marry, he, no matter how mad you get at him, he's still supposed to do the right thing by you and your family.
That's right. Absolutely. And they watch, they learn, they watch, they take notes. Ben is the only guy here. It's three girls and myself. And we make it a point, or he makes it a point. He opens my door to the car,
Good.
little things. And he tells them, listen, when you girls start dating, there's going to be a standard for the type of guys you're dating.
He knows that. Good for him.
And,
Wise enough to see it. He's wise enough that
yeah.
he's modeling that for them.
And when we go to dinner and we go to a nice dinner, a nice place, and we all get dressed up, he tells them, no, you're not paying half the bill. Someone's taking you out and they're a man and they want to court you. They're taking you out. And these are the nice places that exist. And this is what you have earned because you are a good student, you're a good person, you know, you live in a house. And he's teaching them that they have to have a certain set of standard for the
Yes.
men that they're going to be with.
Yes.
And you got to do that with your daughters. You got to do that with your boys too.
With your boys too. The
But your
boys are
daughters,
watching mom. The boys are watching mom to see how mom behaves, and that's the type of tolerance that they're gonna accept in their relationship
right?
from their women.
Totally. Another good conversation. We got to do another episode on that.
Okay, my dear, let's wrap it up. Thank you so much. If people
Yeah.
wanted to get a hold of you, maybe there's some young women out there listening, or some women, they're like, damn, she's deep, and I'd love to connect with her. I know that you're teaching real estate and you're a businesswoman, you're all about your business, but maybe some woman just like, man, maybe I can just ask her how she did this, or something, just wanted to connect with you. Where can they find you? How can they connect with you? How can you empower them?
Yeah. Totally. So on Instagram, urbanteach_. If you go on my website, there's a contact me form on there. You can send me a quick email, urbanteachnyc.com. Urban Teach everywhere. So now on YouTube, Twitter, X, you'll be able to find me.
Outstanding. Thank you, my friends. Always a pleasure. My team.
Same here.
My team's gonna say, how long were you on that podcast first? And I'm gonna say, no, they're gonna be like, yeah, we know you enjoyed it when you're over like 40 or 50 minutes. They're like, yeah, we know you had a great time, great conversation. So thank you, Rose. Thank you so much for
Yeah, we gotta do a couples dinner soon.
we absolutely do.
Guys eat.
I told you over the summer I wanted you guys to come over. But we didn't make it happen this summer. So maybe last summer we'll make it happen, maybe this summer.
Yes.
When I'm back in town. Thank you, my friend. I really appreciate you very much.
You. Anytime.